How you guys doing? We're back. Before we get started in this video, we're going to do the cybersecurity free book really quick. And then I'll announce the next book giveaway for hashtagging in this video. I'm going to go ahead and put the URL in the comment picker here. Put the hashtag cybersecurity book. Get the YouTube comments. And our winner is I can see you. And he or she put hashtag cybersecurity book. Appreciate you. I can see you. Go ahead and send me an email at bunny.flocks@gmail.com. I'll send you the book. I'll just need your physical address and what book that you want. As far as the next book, I'm giving away Operator Handbook. This red team plus OSINT plus blue team reference. I hear good reviews about it. I don't have it myself. I did buy it and it should be here in a few days. Can't wait to take a look at that. 400 pages of cheat sheets. Sort of probably like similar to how the red handbook and the blue handbook. That's the next book I'm giving away. So if you want that in this video, comment the hashtag Operator Handbook and you'll be in the drawing for that. So getting into today's topic, I'm going to go a little more in depth of my pfSense and Protectli personal home firewall solution. I touched on it briefly. I showed you the panel. It's in there. It's doing its thing. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about pfSense in general, Protectli in general, installing that, getting that put together, and then options that you can have. And then also at the end, I'm going to show just a little functionality of the pfSense interface. Show you how to block a website from your network. Essentially, having control of what comes in and what goes out of your personal home network. So I'm going to get started on that. Some reasons you'd want a personal home firewall: networking awareness and understanding. If you have aspirations of being a network admin or an engineer, you're in school, you're going for your Network Plus, CCNA, or whatever. It's pretty good to be hands-on. Book knowledge is great, but if you're also hands-on and can show a potential employer, that you have hands-on experience, even at a small scale with a personal firewall, it could raise your potential to be employed, over someone who may just have book smarts, a cert or two, and is in school or with a degree. So that's why. And it also gives you control of your personal internet traffic, as we talked about. You could block malicious sites, malicious networks, if you're aware of them, if you know of them. And you can monitor what's coming and going in your home network. You can attach Wireshark to it, TCP dump, just watch the interface and just monitor traffic. Not to be nosy or anything of anyone in your household, but just to know what your baseline traffic is. So if you want to, for instance, one of my future projects I haven't gotten around to was trying to monitor a Google Home device. We had 2 Google Homes. I don't have them connected anymore, but I've been thinking about reconnecting them and just monitoring them for like a month or two to get a baseline to see what they're doing. It's Google. It is what it is. They say they're not listening all the time, but in order for them to actually be aware of the command, hey Google, it has to listen. And I've caught it a few times when we used to have them connected. I caught it listening, even though we weren't sending it commands or anything. So I thought that was kind of weird, but that's just a side hustle, side project that I'll probably jump into one day in the future. So what are the costs of this firewall? They range from free all the way to thousands of dollars. For this Protectli and pfSense solution, I spent about $350 to $400 on just the hardware. pfSense software was free. You just download it off the internet from the official site. Depending on what you want to play with or what you want to do, you can spend thousands, tens of thousands if you want to. A lot of corporate networks that utilize open source software would have to probably spend thousands or tens of thousands on a hardware firewall, for the simple fact of the size of their network and the amount of devices we're talking about in scale. But for your home personal network use, you probably just need one of these $300, $200, $300, $400 dollar devices. There are some Netgate devices on the pfSense site. I think they range from 100 to 5,000, 10,000, something like that. For what we're talking about today, $300, $400 at a max. All right, so just a little background. What is pfSense? It is open source software What that means is it means that it is free. The source code is out there on the internet, which means anyone who's capable can view it, modify it, edit it, redistribute a flavor of their own kind. This also means that there's many technically capable people maintaining it, developing it, providing updates and whatnot. In this case, pfsense is pfsense is managed by Netgate. So they're the ones that put out the versions, do updates, fix bugs, and things like that. They also maintain the documentation. pfsense is powerful, has many features. It's a very robust and very well-maintained firewall software. It's well documented. The PDF, the official manual has over 700, I think 600, 700 pages. So it's very well documented. And it usually works for me. If there's anything I needed to know or look up, I go straight to the manual. There are books out there you can get from other authors, industry experts, but for me, so far, the pfsense official manual is a go-to. And again, it is used for private and commercial use. It's not something that is just for a particular, environment. You can use it for a private home. You can use it for corporations. I'm sure there's plenty of corporations out there, that use it because it's available and is well documented. As far as the hardware for Protectli, the unit I got is very small, convenient form factor. It's probably about 4 by 4 inches or something like that, really small. The chassis it's metal, aluminum, so it feels nice. It's not a cheap plasticky feel type of thing. It's very quiet. It doesn't have a fan, but it does have a built-in heat sink, so it helps keep it stay cool. It is customizable from the vendor, so if you go to protectli.com and you're looking at purchasing your own, they have options from 2-port, 4-port, 6 ports, and they also have options for extra RAM, a bigger SSD. You can go there and see what you want depending on what you're looking for. Great for starter projects, great for getting your hands wet, getting your feet wet. Again, $300, $400, learn something, become better familiar with firewalls in general. All firewalls pretty much work the same. It's just the interfaces and the companies and how they do things that will change. How to get started, go to this site here, docs.netgate.com/reference/create-media. Great tutorial, really simple. Shows you how to download the pfsense software and put it on a USB stick and make it a bootable, so you can boot into a pfsense installation from the Protectli or from the Netgate or from whatever firewall, if it's compatible, that you're using. If you follow that site there, pretty simple. As far as the hardware, obviously you'll need the device. I use the keyboard monitor to boot into it, just to look into the boot process. And then so once you have these things, what you want to do is place the device, your hardware firewall, between your ISP and your router modem, or depending on your configuration, between your router and your switch. Everything, you can decide how you want to do that, but you just pretty much have to place it where it's going to be between you and the internet. Once you do that, you're pretty much good to go. Your device will come with at least a WAN port and a LAN port. The WAN port obviously is for going out into the internet, and the LAN is for coming in to your network. The way I did it, I connected those ports and then I booted into it. It went through the boot process. Asked me a few really easy questions. All right, so I'm setting this up. We're gonna run this, install pfsense yields. How would you like to partition your disk? I can do guided. We're gonna do entire disk. This is fun. I'm gonna say no. I'm pretty sure if there's anything else I want to change later, I can do that. Installation of pfsense will complete. Would you like to reboot? Yep. Rebooting into the system. Just installed pfsense on the Protectli device. Yep. There it is. It may not automatically detect those connections. So for instance, it gave the LAN side of the firewall an IP address. So at least I would be able to hit the pfsense interface from any web browser, from any computer or device within my network. It should do that. It may or may not. You may have to do some troubleshooting things with that. You may have to unplug the network, the Ethernet port, plug it back. And there is a command line interface. Once it fully installs, there's a command line interface that'll pop up, and you can change the IP address of the interface if you want, or if you have a static IP for the WAN, you can do that also. Personally, I suggest you just using DHCP. Let your ISP assign an IP address to your WAN port, because that takes care of the IP address and it takes care of DNS, and it just makes it simpler. Unless your configuration, for whatever reason, you have a static IP you need to use. All right. So after you go through the boot process, it's installed. You can hit your pfSense interface from a web browser. I have a screenshot here. Initially, pfSense is going to be available at 192.168.1.1. That's the default. You can change that. You can change it later within this configuration. But here, once you hit that, you'll be greeted with the sign-on. The default is admin pfSense. And then once you get into that, you can change that. And these are some real basic pfSense configuration screens. Choose a host name, choose the domain if you want to use one. And then for the DNS server, if you want to put 8888 or 9999, or if you want to override DNS, allow DNS servers to be provided by your ISP. I left that checked and I was good to go. I just gave my firewall a host name. Pretty simple stuff. Time server, this is just choose your time zone, easy day, right? Nothing too crazy. Step 4, and I do want to talk about this. Both of these are on the same screen. It's just a lot of stuff, so I just screenshot these two things. But the first one is what I was talking about before about DHCP for your WAN interface. 9 times out of 10, you're going to choose DHCP. Just leave it on there. Let your ISP give you an IP address and give you some settings, and you'll be good to go. Unless for whatever reason you have a static IP assigned to you and you have to configure that. As far as the RFC and block the Bogon networks, I left these. They're checked by default, and you may want to do that. And this is just blocking the private IP address space from entering your network. So for instance, on the internet, there was a Class A 10 network and a Class B 172 network and a Class C 192 network should not be active on the internet, right? It's a private IP scheme for behind firewalls, behind network address translation. Basically, it shouldn't be on the internet. If for whatever reason somebody's trying to get in, or there's a connection trying to be established from one of those networks, it could be some spoofing. It could be someone trying to act as a device inside, and there may be something going on there. So you want to leave that checked to just block that automatically, unless you're installing your firewall in a private network to segregate maybe some internal networks. Obviously, you want to uncheck that, because then you just block everything with internal if you're using these IP address ranges. If you're not using them, you probably don't have to check it, but it is what it is. Just be aware of that. As far as block the Bogon, same concept, only this time it's blocking addresses that have been reserved by the IANA. There's an IP address range that isn't assigned on the internet. So obviously you don't want to see traffic from those coming in also. And then this next one, step 5, this is where you can change your LAN IP address. This is the IP address of your LAN port on the firewall. I put an X here because you can change that to whatever you want, as long as it's between 1 and 254, obviously. Admin, set up your password, easy day. After you get to step 7, you'll click reload, and it'll just reboot the firewall with the new settings, and then you'll be good to go. After this, all the defaults will be on, which is fine. pfSense was built to work out of the box by the defaults, except for obviously the password. You want to change the password to the web interface. But once it's on, once you reload it and you're in, now you're at the point where you can begin configuring things that you want to do, installing packages, setting up rules, blocking sites, blocking networks. Just play with it and see what what happens. All right, so we are here at my pfSense web interface. I'm going to go ahead and log in and show you some things. Don't look at my password. All right, so yours may not look like this. I made some changes to the front interface. Added a third column. Yours will look different. It may have just 2 columns, but This is my interface. These are my things. First thing I want to show is the package manager. This is where you can install packages, different functionality, other free open source software just to spice up your pfSense installation. So far, I've only really added ntop ng, which is like a monitoring thing. It's pretty cool. But you can look here. You can add squid, proxy server. There's so many things you can do. And so I'm not, you don't have to install everything, but just go through them, read what they are about, see if you want them, if you're interested, and then install it and then play with it. What I do want to show real quick is the rules, the firewall rules, and how you can block a website from entering your network here. The two default rules, and on the LAN we just have allow the so this anti-lockout. This is for what I'm doing now. I'm touching the web interface. You don't want to disable that, take that out. You'll lock yourself out of your firewall from port 80. I've done that before. Obviously I have 80 and HTTPS, and then I have SSH enabled, but you want to leave those alone unless for security purposes you can delete this and then go straight to the firewall, and log into the firewall that way if you want to stick to the command line. But that depends on your flavor, what you want to do. But first things first, in order to block a site, we need to know the IP address for it, right? So you can come here to diagnostics and click DNS lookup, and in here, and you can do this with NS lookup, on a command line, but within pfSense they have this feature where you can find the IP address of a website, whether it's IPv4 or 6. I'm going to look up pretty quickly ic2.org, and I see I have one result, which is good. Sometimes you'll see 2 or 3 or 4, and that being the case, you may have to block all of them, or you can install a squid proxy server and block it from the host name or the name server name. But that's a video for another time. But for purposes of this video, I'm just going to show you how to block IC2 via the IP address. So copy the IP address, go back to the firewall rules. We'll go to LAN. I'm going to block it. I'm going to block traffic from going out, reaching to that site. You'll click add a rule, and then here's where you can put the parameters of the rule. So for the action, I'm going to put block interface in the LAN, IPv4, because we have an IPv4 address. And for protocol, I'm going to put any, so it just blocks everything. If you put TCP, it will block a lot of TCP traffic, but certain things will still work. Ping can still work, and you just want to depending on what you're trying to do, block any. Protocols are protocols. If you know about protocols, you know what you want to do. And as far as the source, so since we're putting a rule on the LAN, the source can be it can be anything from inside. So I don't have to specify an IP address or machine here. Let's say I wanted to block my son's PlayStation from hitting the Fortnite servers. If I had a static IP on the PlayStation, I would put that here, and then I can block just traffic from the PlayStation to the Fortnite servers. But if just keeping in mind, if DHCP, if the PlayStation was getting a DHCP address, there's a possibility it could change, after the lease is up. So you just want to keep that in mind. If you're using DHCP within your internal network, and you're trying to assign rules and stuff, if one day something's working, the next day it stops working, it could be because you don't have static IPs. But so for source, it could be any. I'm just blocking everything from the inside, hitting ISC2. For the destination, this is where you're going to put single host or alias, and then you'll paste in the IP address here. And then you can log package if you want, but I'm just going to put for the description test ISC2 block. Right? Descriptions, you always want to put something in there just so you can remember what it is. If you make a whole bunch of rules and you just skip description and save it, your firewall rule list can become crazy, and then you'll start seeing things and you won't know what's what unless you have a photographic memory, and you can resolve IP addresses to host names like a computer can. But I highly doubt a lot of you can do that. So Okay, we have the rule here, block, and then we have all the parameters that I chose. It's not working yet until I apply. But before I apply it, I want to show you that I can hit ISC squared. So I'm going to go open a tab here, type in iscsquared.org, show you it works. Okay, boom, I can hit it. I'm in there. I'm gonna close the tab back, go back to pfsense, and then I'm gonna apply changes. Okay, so now that rule has been applied. I'll give it like 5 or 10 seconds or so. All right, so I applied it. Now we're gonna go try to see if it allows me to hit it, and you can see it's just spinning here. It's waiting. iscsquared.org, new tab, waiting. Boom, nothing. Right? It won't allow me to hit it, and it's blocking. That rule is on the edge of my firewall, on the inside, blocking that. So so that's how you would block something, and that works for IPv4 and IPv6. You'd have to put all the IPs in. Let me go ahead and take that rule out before I one day can't do my CEUs and not understand why. So I deleted the rule. I'm going to apply changes, and just for test, I'm going to see if I can hit ISC squared again, and it should work for me. And there it is. So it does work. So that's a really quick, high overview of firewalls. You know, that how to block, how to create rules and block, allow, deny, and whatnot. So there's that. If you have any questions, please hit the comments. Appreciate you guys clocking in, liking, sharing, subscribing. It feels good to be back. I'm going to try to do a video once every couple of weeks like I used to do. Remember, if you want that book, put the hashtag in the comments. Until the next time, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.